Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the idea of a confidence interval. A confidence interval involves a couple little steps where we're going to construct that confidence interval and put, as we go through this section, we're going to put some parameters around, like why would we do this, how confident are we that our estimate is in there, and try to figure out how do we make a good educated guess for where we might think a proportion or a mean falls. So let's go ahead and start. You're going to divide this box in 2/3. The first third is going to end up talking about what a point estimate is. A point estimate is a statistic that provides a reasonable estimate about the population parameter. So how do we do this? So a point estimate has to do with the parameter. It's either going to be a p-hat. So the point estimate is relating to the parameter in the same way that the p-hat is going to be related to the population proportion, and our x-bar, which is our sample mean, is going to have to do with our population mean. So how do we do this? Well, we're going to make an interval. And this is our second third. For an interval from A to B, our point estimate we take A plus B and divide by 2. And our margin of error is B minus A over 2. Let me step outside of the boxes and kind of give you an example of how this works, because you might be thinking, well, I don't really even understand what you're saying. What we're doing in a section like this is we're saying, I believe with 95% confidence that our true mean or our true proportion, so our population proportion, is between A and B on a number line, say. And so that range right there would be expressed as an interval from A to B. Well, smack dab in the middle, this is what's called our point estimate. Another way to think of this might be something like this. I believe that 42% of high school seniors have Netflix on their phone. And I believe that there's a margin of error of plus or minus 5%. Well, if you think about that, I would be saying that 42% is here, and plus 5% would put me at 47%, and minus 5% would put me at 37%. And so I would say that I am 95% confident that the true percentage of high school seniors that have Netflix on their phone is between 37 and 42%. And my point estimate would be 42%. 47% here. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. So I believe with 95% confidence that the true proportion of seniors who have Netflix on their phones is between 37 and 47%. And my point estimate will be at 42%. That's where these things come in. Well, I'm going to be working backwards sometimes. So if I told you it's between 37 and 47%, and I wanted you to find the point estimate for that, you'd need to go to the middle. So that would be A plus B over 2. So 37 plus 47 divided by 2. So 84 divided by 2 would be 42%. To find that margin of error, I take 47 minus 37, which would give me 10, and I would divide by 2 to get 5. So my margin of error in this case is this 5%. Okay? And so that's how margin of error works. You have a point estimate, you put a buffer on either side, which is our margin of error, and that provides us with our point estimate and margin of error and interval relationship. And what we say after the fact is we are blank % confident that the interval from A to B captures the true, and then we put in our parameter context. Meaning our percentage of seniors who have Netflix on their phone, meaning our % of people that own Nike shoes, meaning our % of people who are above the height of 6'3". All right? And so what we do with that then is we make decisions. And those decisions look like this. Our confidence interval contains plausible values. Meaning we construct a 95% confidence interval, a range of values where we know we are 95% confident that it captures the true mean. And we say, is the value that I got from my sample from that population within that particular confidence interval? I think it'll help to do a little example here. So let's talk about the check your understanding. A good way to do these is to pause, try it on your own, try some semblance of it, and walk with me through it as I explain it. I'm going to go ahead and roll. A sample of 100 adults were asked if they pay for monthly subscriptions that they do not use, like a magazine, app, or online program, simply. Many do because they have never taken the time to cancel the subscription. A 95% confidence interval for the proportion of adults who pay for subscriptions they do not use is 0.352 to 0.548. So that's 35.2% to 54.8%. So we want to interpret the confidence interval. Well, interpretation of a confidence interval, that's this right here. Okay? So interpret the confidence interval, that is this right here. Okay? Let's interpret this. We are 95% confident that the interval from 0.352 to 0.548 captures the true proportion of, and this is where that context comes in, right? True proportion of adults who pay for subscriptions they do not use. Okay, so is it definitely in there? No, but we're 95% confident that it is. So let's calculate the point estimate and the margin of error. That is this part up here. Okay, so kind of tie those in. So calculating the point estimate. Well, if I have an interval from 0.352 to 0.548, then my point estimate is halfway between them. So to find halfway between them, I do 0.548 plus 0.352, and I divide by 2 to get 0.45. So that's my point estimate. And my margin of error is the difference, so 0.548 minus 0.352 divided by 2, and that would be 0.098. So just to kind of remember what that means here, if my 0.45 is in the middle, margin of error is used in this way. Plus 0.98 would equal 0.548, and minus, so 0.45 minus 0.098 would give me 0.352. So you subtract it to go down, and you add it to go up, and that gives you your interval. So halfway in between here is our point estimate. Based upon the survey, a reporter claims that a majority of adults continue to pay for monthly subscriptions they do not use. Use the confidence interval to evaluate this claim. What would mean majority? Majority would be more than 50%. So when you look at this interval, 0.352 to 0.548, think about that. 0.548 would be a majority. 0.352 would be not a majority. So how do we evaluate this claim? A reporter is saying a majority of adults continue to pay for monthly subscriptions they do not use. Use the confidence interval. So if it's got to be more than 50 and the interval contains things over 50, it could be, but it also contains values that are under 50. So it may not be. So what we have to say objectively is we have to say because the interval contains both above and below 50, we cannot say that that's true. We do not have convincing evidence to support it. So because the interval contains values both above and below 50%, we cannot say for sure it is a majority. And a good way to say this would be, we do not have convincing evidence. So what would be convincing evidence? Well, let's say we had an interval from 0.51 to 0.548, and we had an interval that was all above 50. Well, we're 95% confident that the true mean falls in that interval and all those values are above, so that would be convincing evidence that perhaps it's true. All right, so that's the basics of confidence intervals. Really understand that point estimate is halfway between in our confidence interval, and our margin of error is that space in between our point estimate and our high value and our low value is really the key to understanding that. And then obviously putting it in context by using our statement here where we say we're 95% confident that this interval captures this particular context is the key.